I'm joined now by former health director for Detroit, physician, and current candidate for the U.S. Senate in Michigan, Abdul El Sayed. Abdul, thanks for joining me.
Brian, always good to join you.
So we have some unfortunate new news here. I'm going to put the post that Donald Trump just posted right up here on the screen. I am recommending to Senate Republicans that the hundreds of billions of dollars currently being sent to money-sucking insurance companies in order to save the bad health care provided by Obamacare be sent directly to the people so that they can purchase their own much better health care and have money left over. In other words, take from the big bad insurance companies, give it to the people, and terminate, per dollar spent, the worst healthcare anywhere in the world, Obamacare. Unrelated, we must still terminate the filibuster. And so I have to ask, first and foremost, what is the plan here? Effectively to just eliminate the healthcare system that we use, but then send people a few $1,000 and expect that to just be fine? I mean, first and foremost, is there something that I'm missing here in terms of what he's actually suggesting?
This is Trump care. It's healthcare for none. I mean, this is where he wants to go. Frankly, this is where Republicans have wanted to go for a very long time.
Right, for 15 years.
That's right. Their plan is you can just save your money, and if you get catastrophically ill with cancer or a heart attack, or let's say you get a car accident if you're young, well, it sucks for you. So this is like taking the idea of health insurance and just basically being like, it sucks so bad right now because we've allowed lobbyists to make it so bad that we should just pull the plug on the whole thing. When there's a perfectly reasonable approach here, which is Medicare for all. You literally guarantee every single person health insurance through the federal government. Because I happen to agree, I'd rather not give health insurance companies money. I think that's a bad thing to do. But in the case where you created a plan where you literally passed it in the state of Massachusetts through a Republican governor, which was originated, by the way, by the Heritage Foundation, the same folks who gave us, Project 2025, that gives the insurance industry money. And then we Democrats said, okay, if this is the plan, why don't we do the thing nationally? And then they turn their backs on it. I think the next step from here is to say, okay, well, we could guarantee everybody health care without the insurance industry through Medicare for all. But no, Trump's plan is to say, I am holding up a government shutdown because I don't want to subsidize health insurance that is about to go spike on 25 million people. And I'm going to double down by basically saying that I don't think anybody should have health insurance. Like, that's basically what he's saying here, which is insane. And the reason why he got drubbed in the off-year elections and is going to get drubbed again in the midterms.
I mean, that's what I want to talk about a little bit here. You're again, as I mentioned before, running for the U.S. Senate in Michigan. Do you have confidence that Senate Democrats are going to hold the line here? Because I know that there's a lot of pressure with this shutdown, and there is real pain that happens as a result of this shutdown. There are air traffic controllers. There's travel that doesn't happen. There are government employees who are not getting paid. So there is a lot of pain, and that creates that pressure. But at the same time, the other side of this thing, if they cave to that pressure, the other side is that healthcare costs for 24 million Americans will 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x, or even more. And so clearly there's pain on the other side also that they're not recognizing. So do you have confidence that they'll hold the line here and not cave to a Republican Party that seems hell-bent on pitting the sick against the hungry in order to basically effectuate their plans of just really taking the government out of the business entirely of helping people?
Can we just reiterate the last 30 plus days? Donald Trump owns government. He wants to flaunt that in front of us all day, every day. He owns both houses of Congress. He owns the Supreme Court. And obviously he owns the White House, so much so that he actually thinks it's his house and decided to tear down the East Wing to build himself a ballroom. Okay. Donald Trump owns government. Donald Trump has decided with his ownership of government to shut it down over the fact that he wants to spike healthcare costs simply because the health insurance program that he wants to defund is named after a president he particularly doesn't like. That's what's happening right now. And not only that, but as he builds himself a ballroom to entertain the richest people in American society, in a let them eat cake moment, he wants to hold SNAP, food benefits for people. And it's not just SNAP, it's WIC, food on the table for moms and babies, hostage to his effort to spike healthcare costs simply because they've got Obama's name on it. This is Donald Trump's shutdown, and the American people reminded him that in Virginia, in New Jersey, and New York. This is not about Democrats. This is about Republicans wanting to take away your health care and being willing to take away your food to take away your health care.
Are we appealing to the wrong thing here for Republicans by saying that, if you do this, it's going to spike healthcare costs and it's going to hurt people, when really at the end of the day, that's what they want. They want healthcare costs to be as high as possible because they want to make Obamacare unpopular. And they know the only way to do that is to make it so expensive that it chips away at the popularity it currently enjoys. So when we're saying, no, doing this, refusing to allocate the existing subsidies for the ACA is going to make it 5 times more expensive, can't you see how that's bad? They're saying, yeah, that's the whole point. So are we appealing to the wrong thing here? Like how would you suggest that we maneuver this whole situation?
Brian, if I get elected to the U.S. Senate, my appeal is not going to be to Democrats or Republicans. My appeal is going to be to everyday people. And imagine the fact that the GOP, dominated by this brainworm MAGA ideology, is now willing to strip away people's healthcare costs. The majority of whom, by the way, based on most analyses, likely voted for Donald Trump. Strip away those healthcare protections so that their healthcare costs are about to skyrocket. And now, to up the ante, they want to take away people's food. So here's the thing about it. You may be right that in a negotiation with Republicans, if the world wasn't a thing and we weren't worried about people losing their health coverage or losing their food as we go into Thanksgiving, you might be right that this might not be the right appeal. But the reality of it is this, is that all of us have to face the voters. And the voters are going to ask, what did you do to make my life better? Letting your healthcare costs skyrocket does not make your life better. Taking away your SNAP benefits doesn't make your life better. Taking away WIC benefits for moms and babies doesn't make life better. And I don't know about all these people who ran for office as Republicans, but the only reason that I'm putting my life on hold, moving all over my state, spending nights away from my kids, is because I want to make people's lives better. And so if these folks clearly don't want to make people's lives better, then they deserve the electoral losses. So at the end of the day, Donald Trump owns government. He has used his ownership of government to build himself a new ballroom while people go without food and as he tries to spike their healthcare costs. And I do hope that the American public sees him for what he is and decides that we can do a lot better in 2026 and again in 2028.
What do you say to his supporters who bought this bill of goods that he was selling, where he promised that he was going to be the guy to focus on affordability, to not strip away earned benefits, to protect Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, only to watch him come into office and not only incite a trade war that he won't relent from because it would hurt his own ego to admit fault, not only to go after those very earned benefits that he promised to protect by stripping away Medicaid from 17 million Americans, and now we have the ACA premiums on the table that'll cause people's premiums to double or triple or quadruple or more, but all the while doing this as he builds himself a $350 million ballroom, as he remodels the Lincoln bathroom and posts 25 photos of it on Truth Social, as he buys a couple of Gulfstream jets for Kristi Noem to the tune of $172 million, as he adorns the Oval Office in gold leafing, as he hosts Gatsby parties at Mar-a-Lago, as during this shutdown, when people's food assistance is going to run out, he goes back to Mar-a-Lago so that he can golf some more. I mean, what would you say to these Trump supporters who may not hear from Democrats, who may not watch anything other than Fox News or hear from Trump himself on his social media feed in light of what we're seeing right now?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry he lied to you. I'm so sorry you were in such profound pain that you were looking for an answer. And I'm so sorry that for a long time, our party didn't give you a clear answer to your pain that recognizes that that pain is real and offers real solutions to take it on. I've been having these conversations with folks up and down my state, many of whom voted for Donald Trump. And it starts with a recognition of the pain that people have been feeling for a very long time in a democracy that has failed to deliver very basic things, knowing that you could keep your job tomorrow that you worked yesterday, believing you could ever own a home or stay in your home if you're over 65, being able to go see a doctor if you get sick, knowing that your kid's school is a good place, knowing your tax dollars are being spent here to take care of people in your community rather than being sent abroad to buy another country tanks. And so we're here now talking about that pain and what we can do to take it on. And we're running a very simple campaign here in Michigan to take money out of politics, to put money back in your pockets, and to pass Medicare for all. And I know that if we can get those things done, that your life will be a lot easier. And beyond that, you won't have to be so worried about what the big ugly monster in Washington, D.C. is going to take away from you next. We got an opportunity to think differently about our politics, but we've got to be willing to reach across the divides they tell us we can't breach to build those things together. We can't have nice things in America, but only if we're willing to reach for them together.
On that point, I have been a supporter of Medicare for all for the entirety of my political digital media career. But you know what Republicans are going to say if you get into the U.S. Senate and you go up to them and you say we got to pass Medicare for all, and this same party that found enough money to send $40 billion to Argentina, the same party that found enough money to subsidize the retrofitting of Trump's Qatari jet to the tune of $1 billion, the same party that of course found enough money to send Secret Service protection to Trump's whole family. I mean, on and on and on. That spends money on his golf carts, at his clubs, whatever it may be. There's always enough money for that, and yet never enough money for anything that would actually help Americans. And so when they inevitably say, "How are we going to pay for Medicare for all?" What do you say to them?
We already pay way too much for healthcare now. 19 cents on the dollar for every dollar spent on our entire economy is spent on healthcare. But you know where that goes? Rather than providing you and I healthcare, instead, so much of that goes to buy yachts for health insurance CEOs or pharma CEOs. I'd rather our healthcare system be spent on us. Every single dollar that we spend to pay a premium or pay a deductible is money we spend to provide our folks healthcare instead of to enrich the richest people in our entire economy even more. And under Medicare for All, in fact, it's the only way that we bring down the spiraling costs of healthcare for all of us, costs that are literally pricing folks out of healthcare as we speak, in a system that's shutting down rural hospitals, in a system where more and more people are about to lose their healthcare. We can guarantee healthcare for everyone. We can guarantee it at a rate that's less expensive than what we pay now, but we can guarantee it only if we decide that that is a good that we want together in our democracy. So look, the folks who tell you we can't afford it, these are the folks who are taking money left and right from the system, profiteering off of our illness. So if you think that's the way that our system should go, or if you think like Donald Trump that we just shouldn't have health insurance because he doesn't want to stop people's health insurance costs from spiraling downward or spiraling upward, then go ahead and go the other way. But, frankly, I'm coming to your voters. I'm going to go and have these conversations in Republican communities where they tell us that Medicare for all is a dead idea. Because here's the thing about it. I believe in persuasion. And I think that's the number one responsibility of anybody in politics right now. And so I'm not afraid of what I believe. I'm not afraid that I can get people to see it my way and to believe that this, in fact, could be better for them. So, look, my conversation isn't going to be with 99 other senators. My conversation is going to be with the 350 million people who voted for all of us as senators about what we could actually have if we're willing to get past the mis and disinformation of the industry telling us that the only way we can have health insurance is if they make millions and millions of dollars.
You alluded a little bit to the conversations that you've had with some of these voters. I'm curious about this idea of the voters who did vote for Trump but regret it now. What have those conversations been like, and what's been the consistent through line within those conversations?
You know, the number one place to start with folks is about what you want for the future, not about what happened in the past. And I think too often those of us who are so frustrated about Donald Trump and the fact that he's president again, we want to reiterate the past instead of fight for the future that all of us can invest in. And in those conversations, I don't need people to recant for their choices in 2016 or in 2020 or in 2024. I need them to make the right choice in 2026 and in 2028. And so it is about the fact that we, in fact, can think differently. It is about their pain, about their frustration, and about an economy that is pricing them out, about the price of eggs, sure, but also the price of a premium for health insurance, about whether or not they believe they can have their job tomorrow that they worked yesterday and yesterday before. It's about those things and about what it takes for us to actually take this on. And it's about the corporate politics that has created Trump. One of the things I said in 2018 when I ran for governor, and I'm saying now again, is that at the end of the day, Donald Trump is not himself the disease of our politics. Donald Trump's just the worst symptom of the disease of our politics. And if we want to take on that symptom, we've got to take on the disease. And that disease is the way that corporations buy and sell politicians in ways that rig the system against us. It's the reason that we are getting suppressed when it comes to our wages. We're getting inflated when it comes to prices, that housing is so hard to come by because of speculation, that healthcare is so unattainable in America today. All of it goes back to the same issue, which is money in politics. And so I want to have that conversation. I'm the only candidate in my race who's never touched a dime of corporate money and never will. And so I want to talk about how being unbought means that I can actually come and work for them. Let's talk about what we can build in the future rather than have a conversation about what happened in the past.
Abdul, I'm an independent voter in Detroit. I get health insurance through my job. I like the system as it is. It works for me. My family is fully covered. What do you say to me?
That's amazing. And I hope you enjoy your insurance. And if you want to keep your insurance, that's fantastic. I just know that sometimes people lose jobs. I know that sometimes the factory you work in closes down. And so I want to make sure that if that happens, that you're still covered because I want a healthcare guarantee for everybody from the moment they are born to the moment they turn 26 to the moment they get a job or lose a job or get married or get divorced or turn 65. I want it to be there for them. I don't want them to have to worry about what happens at the point of care. I don't want them to have to worry about medical debt. I want it to be there for you. So I'm so glad that you like your insurance. That's fantastic and great. I want to make sure that that's there for you. But I also want to make sure that you've got something at baseline, no matter what happens in your life, what happens in your kids' lives, what happens in your kids' lives, what happens in your parents' life, that they're secured from the cost of medical debt, which is affecting so many people. So look, we can have nice things together, right? And it doesn't come at the cost of the other. People don't have to be so insecure about what we're going to lose. Ask yourself what we can get. And the only thing keeping us from getting that is the fact that corporations make a huge amount of money off of our healthcare as it stands. And I just personally don't think that that's the right way to build a system. I want healthcare that works for people, not necessarily for corporations alone.
I'm that same independent voter. I've heard about all these countries that have socialized medicine. I've heard about France's system and the UK system and Canada's system, and sure, it may not cost a lot, but you can't get in to see a doctor. Everything takes too long, and so we have the best healthcare right here in America. What do you say to me?
Yeah, chances are you probably didn't have to use your healthcare because if you did, you'd realize that unfortunately the waiting time for a cardiologist, which by the way, nobody gets told they got to see a cardiologist and that they should wait for that. The average wait time is about 2.5 months, and that's in America. And chances are that that's because of a network that your health insurance has built specifically to make sure that they can make as much money off of you as possible. When people tell you that you're going to wait a really long time, sometimes it's easy to assume that you're not going to wait a really long time here. That's just not true. The other side of it, though, is let's look at the numbers. In Canada, they live 2 years longer lives than we do. They spend nearly 60%, so almost half as much on healthcare as we do. And in survey after survey, they're just happier than we are. So I would rather build a system where everybody gets the care they need and deserve without having to worry about the cost. And look, Canada's not even the right comparison because we're the United States of America. We do things better than everyone else. So if they can do it, I believe we could do it better. So I hate it when people say, well, you know what, we're going to be the best in the Olympics. We're going to build the biggest, baddest, you name it. But then when it comes to healthcare, they're like, well, if Canada can't get it right, how can we get it right? Because
Right.
we're the United States of effing America, right? We get things right. But right now, we're getting it profoundly wrong. And we're getting it profoundly wrong because of a few very, very rich people who want to make sure they can continue to get rich off of our system. So, like I said, at the end of the day, if you're happily insured in our system, I want to keep that for you. But I know that sometimes when you're happily insured, you fall off that insurance. I know that a lot of people are not happily insured. How can we build something that takes the best of all parts? I think that healthcare guarantee through Medicare for all is the best way to do that.
Last question on this, and that is on cost specifically. A lot of folks will look at their healthcare and they'll say, okay, well, this is the cost of my premium. Maybe my job pays for it, and so there's just a small cost that I incur. What are the actual costs that we look at in the American healthcare system? Because it's not just premiums. Can you go over the extent to which the healthcare system is actually much more expensive when you think about all the costs that we do incur?
Yeah. So if you're insured through your employer, you pay a premium. A premium is kind of a weird word for it, but it's you get your paycheck garnished every 2 weeks or 4 weeks so that you are insured. Chances are your employer also pays part of that premium. So that's part you're not seeing. You're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. You're not seeing the part that's under the sea that your employer pays. Now imagine if your employer didn't have to pay for that, imagine where that money would go, probably in your pocket. So now you're getting paid, you're losing it twice. It's the money your employer doesn't pay you in the first place. Then it's the money that the insurance takes from what your employer already paid you. That's just baseline. And then the median deductible. So let me just explain what a deductible is. A deductible is the money you have to pay for the health insurance you already paid for. It'd be like turning on Netflix. You pay $19.99 every month, and then you go to watch the season finale of your favorite show, and you got to pay again. Okay. The median deductible is $4,000. Just to put that in perspective, the median income in America is about $80,000 for a family of four. Okay. So that means you're going to lose a whole paycheck on top of the fact that your paycheck keeps getting garnished. That's the premium. And then on top of that, there's these things called co-insurance or co-pays, which is money you pay even after that. And then there's an out-of-pocket maximum usually, which is somewhere around $9,000 or $10,000, which is the maximum you will have to pay out of pocket for the insurance that garnishes your paycheck every 2 weeks or 4 weeks. The amount of money that goes into our healthcare system is 19% of our entire GDP. Literally 19 cents out of every dollar of the whole economy is spent on healthcare. And guess what? All of it comes out of somebody's pocket. And so we don't have to live like this. And to put in perspective, in Canada, that number is about 11%. 11%. And so I want folks to understand the reason we have such high medical debt in this country is because most people, they have to play Russian roulette with their health. They got to choose between, do I want a high premium low deductible or do I want a low premium high deductible? But you start paying a lower premium and then all of a sudden that deductible hits $6,000, $7,000. You can't pay for it. So what happens? That puts you into debt, which is why the debt in this country is $225 billion for medical debt alone. That is bigger than the GDP of half of the US states in this country. Again, we don't have to live like this. I literally went to Canada to interview people about their medical debt. And guess what? Nobody knew what medical debt was. It was like an astounding question. They're like, what do you mean medical debt? That's like not a thing I've ever had to think about. Imagine that.
Well, last question on this, and that is that in the aftermath of Trump announcing Trump Care, which, as you very smartly put it, is healthcare for none, Rick Scott came out and said, totally agree, POTUS, I'm writing the bill right now. We must stop taxpayer money from going to insurance companies and instead give it directly to Americans in HSA-style accounts and let them buy the healthcare they want. This will increase competition and drive down costs. Abdul, do you trust Rick Scott to be the savior here, who, as CEO of Columbia HCA Hospital, oversaw the biggest Medicare fraud in U.S. history and was fined $1.7 billion, which was at that time the largest DOJ fine ever levied for healthcare fraud?
Yeah. Former healthcare executive Rick Scott, accused of healthcare fraud, now wants people to just make a really big savings account. I just want people to understand this. Like anybody who's worked in the system would like eye pop at this, because I want you to think about this. You get a car accident, that can cost you $100,000. I mean, I don't know about you, but like, I don't know what kind of HSA account is going to have $100,000.
Yeah.
Median income in this country for a family of four is $80,000. So now what happens, right? You have no insurance. The whole point of insurance is it's supposed to pool all of our risk together so that if something catastrophic happens to somebody, they're covered because that didn't happen to everybody. Like that idea is the whole point of health insurance. And the notion that instead of investing in government health insurance that can cover everybody, that we should all just have big savings accounts and hope for the best is like insane to me.
Yeah.
And it should be insane to everybody. Because here's the thing about it. If you're happily bumping along and you're healthy, consider yourself blessed. But for those of us who actually worked in the healthcare system and seen what it looks like when not only do you have the injury of the illness, but you also have to worry about the financial catastrophe that's about to hit you, that's an awful place to be. And nobody in the richest, most powerful country in the world should be there. What Rick Scott is trying to do is virtually guarantee that everybody who has a catastrophic situation, a cancer diagnosis, a car accident, is basically going to go bankrupt.
Right.
Like, I don't think we ought to live like this so that folks like Rick Scott can make a lot of money. It's insane.
Yeah. Abdul, for people who are looking to help your campaign, what can they do?
I hope that you'll follow us on socials at Abdul El Sayed, or go ahead and go to abdulforsenate.com. And I hope that you'll chip us off $5-10. Follow us, sign up to volunteer. We are building a mass mobilization. As I said, I don't take corporate money, so I rely on good folks like you. So I hope that folks will come and join this effort here in Michigan. We need and deserve the good things in life, and we can have them if we're willing to actually reach across the divides they tell us we can't. So I hope that folks will join us. Brian, thank you for spreading the good word and having us on.
Abdul, as always, thanks for all the information and best luck in the campaign trail. I'm going to put that link to
Appreciate
your website right here on the screen and also in the post description.